Redford was one of the greatest names in modern Hollywood. The 89-year-old actor died early this morning at his home in Utah. That's according to his publicist.
There are few names in Hollywood that carry as much weight as Robert Redford's. The man who once defined American cinema of the 1970s wasn't just an actor. He was a director, activist, and the founder of the legendary Sundance Film Festival. In September 2025, news broke that the Hollywood icon had passed away. The world reacted in disbelief. But as details slowly surfaced, questions began to swirl, questions that refused to fade. As we look deeper into the final days of one of America's greatest stars, don't forget to support our channel by liking this video and subscribing. It helps us continue bringing you more stories from the golden age of Hollywood. On the morning of September 16, 2025, Hollywood awoke to the shocking news that Robert Redford, the face of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Sting, and All the President's Men, had passed away at the age of 89. The announcement came from his longtime representatives, Rogers and Cowan PMK, who had managed the actor's public relations for decades. The statement was brief, only a few lines confirming his death at his home in the Sundance Mountains of Utah. There were no details from doctors, no remarks from family members. That silence felt strange. Just 2 years earlier, Redford had appeared vibrant and articulate at the 2023 Sundance Film Festival, speaking passionately about cinema and the environment. How could a man who seemed so alive then fade away so quietly now? According to the Salt Lake Tribune, Redford was discovered unresponsive at around 5:20 a.m. by his longtime housekeeper in an upstairs room overlooking the pine forests. His family immediately called Dr. Henry Lale, a geriatric specialist from Salt Lake City who had been Redford's personal physician for over 20 years. When Lale arrived, there was nothing left to do. Redford had passed away roughly an hour earlier. But what puzzled both the media and the public was the complete absence of emergency activity that night. No ambulance was recorded, no police vehicles were seen entering the property. Neighbors heard nothing at all. The world learned of his passing only after the official press release was issued, not before. That eerie quiet led some to wonder if the true story of Robert Redford's death was being carefully controlled. In the hours that followed, speculation grew rapidly online. Why had such a towering figure in American culture received such a minimal announcement? On social media and discussion forums, some claimed Redford had died earlier than the public was told. Others believed the family had deliberately chosen privacy to protect his legacy. By afternoon, CNN, ABC News, and Vanity Fair each released commentaries about the strange manner of his death. Journalist Jake Tapper called it a passing, too perfect not to raise questions. Meanwhile, Vanity Fair contributor Mark Harris revisited Redford's final public appearances, noting one particularly odd moment: his abrupt exit from an environmental event in New Mexico in May 2025. Redford had stepped off stage mid-speech, citing discomfort from the high altitude. At the time, organizers dismissed it as fatigue, but in hindsight, that moment may have been a warning sign no one recognized. When the family announced plans for a private cremation on September 20th, the public was once again caught off guard. There was no memorial service, no press invitation, no chance for fans to pay respects. Only a small circle of relatives and lifelong friends attended. Even some of his colleagues from the Sundance Institute were unaware the ceremony had already taken place. That secrecy left many wondering, what was the Redford family trying to protect? A week later, Variety published a detailed piece citing an internal source from Wilson Carter Lab, the private forensic facility that had received Redford's body after his passing. The report included the signature of Dr. Henry Lale, who also signed the provisional death certificate. The official cause was listed as natural causes consistent with age-related cardiovascular decline. Still, The report included details that deepened the mystery. There were no marks, bruises, or signs of trauma. His skin tone and muscles suggested he had died peacefully in deep sleep, perhaps from a gentle cardiac arrest during a dreamlike state. Yet no ambulance or medical team had ever been called to his home. Redford's attorney later clarified that this had been his explicit wish, to die in peace at home without machines or intervention. An anonymous former employee later revealed that both Amy Redford, his daughter, and his partner, Sybil Saggers, had urged him to wear a heart-monitoring wrist device which could detect rhythm irregularities or apnea. But Redford had refused. He reportedly said, "If something ever happens, I want it to happen quietly." Just 3 days later, his remains were cremated at Heritage Valley Crematory in Salt Lake City without an additional autopsy. Although Utah law allows this with a signed certificate, the speed of the process unsettled many. No independent medical report was ever issued by state authorities. Online discussions exploded. Why was there no secondary examination? Why had everything moved so quickly? Some argued that the famously private Redford had orchestrated his own quiet exit. Others suspected something deeper had been concealed. Not long after, the media began revisiting the lesser-known parts of Redford's medical history. Few knew that his health challenges had begun early, when he was just 11 years old. In 1947, young Robert contracted poliomyelitis in Santa Monica, California. While he escaped the worst effects that left many children in iron lung machines, he endured 2 weeks of high fever and minor seizures. Doctors noted weakness in his left leg and arm, symptoms that would subtly affect his endurance for the rest of his life. Years later, in a 2004 NPR interview, he recalled, "It was mild polio, but it felt like my body gave up on me for a while." As an adult, Redford quietly took vitamin supplements and circulation aids, but never disclosed this to the public. Around that same time, tragedy struck again, the death of his mother when he was just 18. Friends later described this period as one of emotional turbulence. In 1954, a car accident near Malibu nearly killed him. The vehicle skidded off the road and tumbled down a slope. Redford suffered spinal strain that required 3 months of therapy, injuries that caused recurring muscle spasms in his neck and shoulders for decades after. In the early 2000s, rumors surfaced that Redford had undergone treatment for a prostate condition at a private clinic in New Mexico. Sources claimed he received low-dose radiation therapy and hormone medication, though he insisted on keeping it confidential. Afterward, he shifted to a vegetarian diet and retreated to the mountains for recovery. By 2012, reporters began noting visible changes in his appearance, a darker, more weathered complexion, and rougher skin texture, likely caused by decades of outdoor filming. Some dermatologists speculated he had undergone minor skin procedures around that time, though his team never confirmed it. But the hardest blow to his spirit came years later, in 2020, with the death of his son, James Redford, a filmmaker who died of bile duct cancer. After that, Robert Redford retreated completely from the public eye, giving interviews only by email and focusing on a memoir that would remain unfinished. Those close to him began noticing subtle changes during his final years in Utah. Since 2024, Redford appeared increasingly frail, skipping public events and staying mostly inside his cabin near Provo Canyon. At a Santa Fe environmental conference in 2023, he accepted an award but stayed on stage for only a few minutes before leaving, appearing lightheaded and uneasy. Later that year, a photographer captured him walking alone across the lawn at dusk, slow, deliberate, with his hand on his hip, almost unaware of the camera. Former colleagues also revealed that he began struggling with hearing loss. During meetings at the Sundance Institute, he often asked people to repeat himself. One staff member recalled him saying, "I can hear, but I can't understand." His complexion had also grown noticeably pale and dry, with sunspots visible to the trained eye. Doctors attributed this to photoaging, skin damage caused by years of filming outdoors. By late 2024, Redford had completely withdrawn from public life. Journalist Maureen Dowd later wrote, "He wasn't hiding from fame. He was preparing for closure." Behind the scenes, Redford's private relationships also drew renewed interest. His friendship with Barbra Streisand, rekindled after The Way We Were, 1973, was mentioned in Streisand's 2023 memoir, where she described their closeness while maintaining that Redford always kept an emotional distance. His longtime relationship with German artist Sybil Sagers, nearly 2 decades his junior, was another quiet chapter in his life. Though the couple briefly separated in the mid-2010s, they reunited publicly in 2020, attending Sundance hand in hand. Redford's family life was marked by both joy and pain. He had 4 children, though only his daughters Shauna and Amy remain active publicly. After his son's passing, he rarely spoke about family matters again. He just disappeared into the mountains, one friend recalled. For most of the world, Robert Redford will forever be remembered as more than an actor. He was a filmmaker, producer, and pioneer of independent cinema. His breakthrough came in 1969 with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which not only made him a superstar, but also inspired the name of the Sundance Film Festival he would later found. He followed that with The Sting, 1973, and All the President's Men, 1976, where he portrayed journalist Bob Woodward in the film that captured the spirit of Watergate-era America. In 1980, Redford made his directorial debut with Ordinary People, which won Best Picture and earned him the Oscar for Best Director, surpassing even Martin Scorsese that year. Behind the scenes, though, tension simmered. Redford refused to attend the post-award gala after being told to soften parts of his acceptance speech that criticized media manipulation. Instead, he quietly left the venue and stepped outside for a smoke. The following year, he created the Sundance Institute, turning 5,000 acres of Utah land into a haven for filmmakers. The festival would go on to launch the careers of Quentin Tarantino, Steven Soderbergh, and Darren Aronofsky. Although later criticized for becoming too commercial, Redford defended it, saying, "I don't control anyone. If they don't like it, they don't have to come." In 2014, the Cannes Film Festival honored him with a Lifetime Achievement Award, calling him the architect of American independent cinema. Redford was also a passionate environmentalist. In 2000, he was briefly detained while protesting against a coal mining project near Yellowstone National Park, a moment that divided public opinion but solidified his image as a man of conviction. Robert Redford's life was marked by achievement, resilience, and solitude. His marriage to Lola Van Wagenen, which lasted nearly 30 years, ended in 1985, a private heartbreak that shaped much of his quiet demeanor. Even as he aged, Redford remained the embodiment of independence, a man who chose privacy over spectacle, integrity over popularity. His passing left behind not only a film legacy, but also an air of mystery that still lingers. When Dr. Henry Lell's statements, the sealed reports, and the swift cremation are all considered, one can't help but wonder what truths were left behind in silence. Perhaps, as many have said, Robert Redford wrote his own ending, one that was as graceful, calm, and deeply human as the characters he portrayed.